Oh boy. Oh boy. Now, I don't even know what to say, man. This is an ending that left me speechless, honestly. Like it really left me speechless in one way, shape, or form. I don't really know what I could really say that is different from what everybody else is saying. I don't really know what other emotions I could convey that everyone else has probably already conveyed. To be honest with you, I'm not really as mad as everyone else is. Number one being, I honestly got into this show. I started watching like the beginning of this week. Like I believe it was on a Sunday or a Monday. And I just started watching all of the Umbrella Academy. And there were some things that honestly there was a lot of things in the beginning seasons that really surprised me and really gave me a feel for why people loved, this show. And I found myself getting very invested in the characters, the story, the worlds themselves, and how the family themselves were always changing everything around them. Like they were so chaotic and they were so, colorful, and just they were always changing the world around them, whether it be positive or, for the most part, as we see at the end of every season, negative. And like I said, I'm not really as mad as other people are. One being because I didn't see this ending live. Number one, I kind of knew the ending was going to be bad heading into it. I just wanted to see how the ending was going to be bad, building up to it. And number two being, I can only imagine how some of the fans feel. And I honestly kind of empathize and sympathize with them, because these are fans. These are day one fans that have loved this show since 2019, when it first came out. These are fans that waited year by year by year, every single year, waiting to see what Steve Blackman would put out, for people like myself, people who love, the show being the Umbrella Academy. And before I go into how I feel about this ending and just this show as a whole, I just want to say I did not at all read the comics. I honestly didn't really know about the comics until I looked it up, and I saw that there were comics and the source material for this show. So, and there were books and all that. So I didn't really know that initially, and I don't really know how much material the writers have with this show. But this ending, and you can really tell from watching it, it really felt rushed. Now, when it comes to anime and shows that I've watched for years and years and years, I'm known for going kind of hard on them and talking crap about them, because there's certain expectations and certain things that I wish could have happened that didn't, initially happen. And I know people always tell me to just enjoy things for what they are. And I've honestly been trying to. Because I remember, like, at a younger age, like, especially younger than I am now, I've always been keen to enjoy myself. But now I've really opened my eyes even more, and I kind of just. I don't really see. Well, I guess kind of see things for what they are, but at the same time, just, having a more realistic viewpoint on certain things. And I went into this show just to enjoy it. I knew the ending was bad. I didn't really know how good the show actually was. It took me, like, I think 2 or 3 episodes to really get into the Umbrella Academy. But, after what happened to Diego and him losing two of the most important people in his life, and then Klaus getting kidnapped, and then all of these things, one by one, that started to interest me more and more and more. They really hooked me in, and they really got me to enjoy this show. And it's not, I mean, I don't want to say it's not one of my favorite shows of all time because, I mean, there's a lot of shows that I like, but this is a very enjoyable show. And if I ever have the time, I'll definitely go back and rewatch some things because I'm sure there's things that I've missed. I started taking notes on this show actually at the beginning of season 4 just to get. Actually, in the middle of season 3, I started taking notes. Because that's when the show really started to kind of go a bit downwards for me compared to the first 2 seasons, of course, because the first 2 seasons I thought were very good. But yeah, man, let me just go over the ending a bit. I'm gonna try and go character by character, and I'm not gonna try and yell or scream or anything. Luther. First of all, man, let me put the phone down here. Was there no other job that this nigga Luther could have gotten into? Because okay, number one, the guy is he's still strong. He's not like super strong, but he's still strong. Number two, he's a good looking guy. Like he's not some scrub like you find in the alleyway every time you pass, walking down downtown Detroit, when you're going to a 7-Eleven. He's not like a hobo or anything. Like he's a good, handsome guy, and I'm not into dudes, I'm not gay, I don't really swing that way, but I mean, just look at him. He's a handsome looking guy. Like could he not like become like a model, or could he not get in anywhere else with his looks alone? Like it's just that's just mind-boggling to me. And the fact that he could only get into a and it's really telling, honestly, how the writers just treat Luther like shit, honestly. Because like in the beginning seasons, I didn't really mind Luther being, dumb and making these wrong decisions. At first I thought it was a part of his writing, but as the seasons went on, he got worse and worse and worse, and we come in season 4 and he's, the village fucking idiot. I think 5 says something like that. I think 5 said something about like a village idiot or something. I forgot. But yeah, man, they've really treated Luther like shit, and I don't think he's really had anything substantial in this show outside of, I would say, the Luther dad dynamic, where he was the only one out of the 7 that really took dad seriously. He respected him. He always listened to him, no matter what would happen or say. But other than that, I don't really think any. I don't think Luther was a part of anything substantial or anything of value really compared to the other characters. And I feel like the writers and the author himself really treated Luther like shit. And I'm honestly kind of sad to think and hear about that, because I thought the actor did a really good job in his role. And I wish Luther would have been given something a little bit more serious, or something that would have pertained towards the main plot. I know they like to reserve something like that for, say, like a 5, but yeah, I would have liked to have seen Luther have like a more serious role. Like, yeah, because they gave him the most basic power of all time, being super strength. That's not really anything to stand out among the 7. I think that's probably the most basic power if you think about it for a second, outside of Diego's power, which I'll go over in a minute, because Diego clearly does nothing with his fucking power, outside of aiming at stuff with knives and yeah. But yeah, I feel bad for Luther, the character, and the actor who played Luther, because I feel like he could have been given a whole lot more. Moving on to number 2, Diego. Man, if there's anybody I feel bad for most in this show, I think it's probably Diego off the top of my head, man. Like what? I know Lila is a crazy cute girl, but he didn't deserve someone like Lila. Let's be honest, he didn't. I know there's some people out there who like Lila. I know there's some people who's fans of Lila. I mean honestly, Lila's a piece of shit. Like I thought like after Stanley died, she would get some substantial character development, but in season 4, she's still the same lying hypocritical piece of shit that she was in season 2. Like manipulating, like it's just like we don't get any character development for Lila. She's still the same old lying, hypocritical piece of shit that she was, in the first season where we seen her. And some people may still like her, other people I don't know. I don't really care. I just don't like Lila. I don't fuck with her. If I met someone like Lila in real life, I would get the fuck away from her as fast as I can. So I'm glad the show really influenced me to, think about somebody like Lila. So yeah, thanks, showrunners. Diego though, I feel bad for him. He didn't deserve somebody like Lila. I wish he could have got somebody a little bit more mature and someone who was actually willing to move on with their lives. And his ability is knife throwing. Well, not really knife throwing. Like he can kind of, I guess, change the projectile. I guess. Like I've seen him kind of control it. Like, but it's hard to really think of what his power is because he doesn't really do anything too good with it. Like, yeah, like he just doesn't really do anything cool with it, man. Like he just has knives in his pocket throughout like 90% of the season. Like he only throws them and hits people with them at certain points. Like the time where he threw it at his dad, because he's not going to kill his dad, so he was just showing off at the dinner table. But yeah, there's just a disappointing power. Doesn't really do anything with it from time to time. I wish he could have gotten more too. I like the dad's like I think the my favorite storyline that I think Diego was a part of was like the dad storyline, which was probably the best storyline off the top of my head that Diego was a part of. I really liked it. I thought the JFK thing, it was annoying as hell because he kept on mentioning JFK like every 10 minutes in season 2. And that just got a little bit too rambunctious for me. But it fit his character because he does have this hero complex, which I wish they would have gotten more into. I wish they could have shown a bit more of, or we could have gotten like a little bit deeper of him wanting to, him becoming a hero, like just giving us reasons for why he would become a hero. But actually, I think they do. Like, I believe they talked about him having the desire to beat, pieces of shit. Like him beating people up, it gives him comfort. It gives him, it's his heaven. So him beating people up and stopping crime, it's relaxing for him. So I guess that is a good reason. I wish they could have gotten more into that though. But yeah. Who else, man? Moving on to number 3, being Allison. Holy shit, man! They really, in my opinion, screwed over Allison, man. Dude, they really screwed over Allison, in my opinion. I think Allison could have been possibly outside of Victor, Vanya, whatever you want to call him. Um, Allison could have been the most powerful one out of all of them. I truly think that she really had a ceiling. She in with this show. I think she could have been she could have had a higher ceiling if they would have portrayed her as a villain for at least one season. Because it was building up to that in season 3, but they never do anything with that. And she ends up getting what she wants at the end of the season, and I just found that to be very disappointing. Like I would have liked to have seen her descent in season 3 and her doing all of these awful things, her trash talking Victor, her in a way almost it's like a form of rape for what she did with Luther, like her forcing him on her and then her going too far and making him stop. Like it's just all of these awful things that she made these people do in season 3. I really liked it. Now I wasn't okay with the decisions, and I completely thought she was out of line. But from a writing standpoint, I thought that she was. I really liked the direction of her character, and I found her alone to be the best thing about season three. And I would have loved to have seen more of that. But but yeah, man. They really screwed up Allison. I wish we could have seen a villain Allison at least, and then that way, after she has her villain arc, she could have, because then she could have gotten more powerful, and we could have seen her realize more about her power that she didn't know previously. So, they screwed up that too, and they didn't really like again season four, the season of showing not telling. They never really explained how she was able to adapt her power. Like she wasn't even talking. Like she literally exploded this man's testicles, like in like episode, I think, like what, 5, episode like 4 or 5, just effortlessly. Like it's just ridiculous, man.
Where was I? Sorry, I had to take a break. So basically, they fumbled Allison. They did fumble Allison very, very hard. Um, I mean, that's really all I'm gonna say about that. So she was number 3, and also, the grave scene with Klaus and her. I would have liked it if Klaus would have actually have gotten out by himself, or would have found a way to get out of the casket by himself, instead of having Allison save him. And I do like the relationship between the two siblings, but at the same time, you could have at least had Klaus, because he does have the ability to have some other ghost or somebody else dig him out of the grave, and basically use his powers by himself to get him out of that situation. And it would have had further ramifications of him, and how powerful Klaus really is, and how after his self discovery in season 3, that he's found himself even more in season 4. So there's that. So I didn't really like Allison saving Klaus, because that kind of regressed Klaus in a way, and honestly kind of disappointed me to see. Number 4 being Klaus, aka the middle child of the family. I think this was probably the most random storyline that Klaus was a part of. And at first, I didn't really know where they were going, because it was never explained, and they just treated this nigga like a sex slave. So it was never explained, how he went from being a safe cross guard to a ghost set to a resurrecting sex slave, is just kind of wild to me, honestly. Then it had something to do with money, and her wanting the money, and it's just all this other bullshit. Um, what else, man? What else? I mean, I don't really have anything else to say about Klaus, because they didn't really do shit with him in this season. Uh, and back to Diego, thinking about it for a bit, they did kind of do a decent job with him and the CIA. Again, like I'm sorry that he has to have Lila as a wife, but I like the CIA storyline. I like how he was kind of taking his family for granted, and I like how he grew to appreciate them even more after being in that CIA position. And again, there were some good ideas this season that I honestly kind of liked. I like the fact that Luther and Diego, compared to them in the first episode, they're now getting along this season. They now have a handshake. So there's things about this season that I like and appreciate, and especially the fact that Luther and Diego were literally fighting each other in season 1. I mean, in episode 1, technically. And then in this episode, they're high-fiving each other. They're basically like friends. and it's honestly a good thing to see. So that's another positive I'll give this season. Again, it's more of the fact of me praising the ideas that this season have, but the season as a whole was just bad. Um, so going on to clause number 5, I think this is the worst I think 5 has been throughout the entirety of the show by far. He doesn't really feel useful like he felt in the first 3 seasons. The plot doesn't fully feel focused around him. And I get them trying to have him have a love interest in Lila of all people, but if you're gonna have 5 find any love, you should have had it been with somebody else, at least, you know? It should have been with somebody that he's never met before. Like, you have this nigga fall in love with someone who was literally pissed at him 2 seasons ago that he murdered her parents, you know? And then they have this random 6-year period where they're just away from everybody, 7-year period where they're away from everybody. Uh, it was just out of nowhere, man. It was just out of nowhere. I don't want to go too deep into that. I mean, 5 and Lila. I mean, you should already know what many other people think about the relationship and how bad the pairing is, and how I think Steve just had some fetish with this couple. Like, he wanted to try. I think him or one of the writers were just, what if we bring together 5 and Lila? Huh? Maybe that's a great idea. Maybe that's a perfecting idea. You know, like, did they have this plan for some time? Like, was this just some meeting that was thrown in the boardroom? Man, I wish I was like a fly on the wall, just buzzing around, just seeing what sort of terrible ideas they came up for this season, man, and how they could just not have any effort towards what they had, whatsoever. Now, I like the idea of the 6-year period. It was just used poorly and honestly with the wrong characters, in my opinion. I didn't like it. And honestly, 5 felt very useless this season up until the final scene, the final point of the show, where he suggested that everyone, hold hands and we just sacrifice ourselves for the sake of the timelines, which I gotta say I actually do like. I don't want to compare this to Attack on Titan's ending because this was 10 times more bad, but I love the concept of both the Attack on Titan ending and this ending. Now, let me explain further. Attack on Titan's ending was basically the fact that Eren was trying to bring peace to everyone, was trying to bring peace to the war itself, and he did that by having them all have an alliance and help together to stop the rumbling, which by default had peace. And some, it did help to give some peace and some sense of freedom for everybody that was still alive. But in the end, realistically, war would still break out, and hatred would still, the cycle of hatred would still continue no matter what. So, I just didn't like the way it was executed and how it was kind of explained and conveyed. I feel like Isayama did as great of a job as he could have done, but I felt like it was completely rushed and should have been given a little bit more time to nurture. So, yeah, there's that. But when it comes to the Umbrella Academy ending, I like the concept of it. I just don't like the execution of it. I like how they kind of gave us a sad ending. I just didn't like the execution of this entire season because it didn't really feel worth it in the end. So basically, I like the idea that they, like, everywhere they go, they cause chaos and they make things even worse. So the solution that 5 had was for them to just kind of let go and to sacrifice themselves for the sake of the timeline. But honestly, I kind of like that, to be honest with you, because in a way, it feels like Steve is kind of telling his fans to really enjoy the journey, not the destination. And I always love that message because it ties back to one of my favorite messages and endings in all of in anything with Hunter x Hunter, and how basically Gene's message to Gon was that enjoy the little detours to enjoy the little detours as much as you can, because it's more valuable than the destination itself, so enjoy the detours to the fullest. And I feel like I hear many people saying that I hear many people speculating the fact that the whole Umbrella Academy was a waste of time, since there was no Umbrella Academy to begin with. I would argue that, in the fact that us as fans, we've enjoyed the Umbrella Academy for so long, and we've enjoyed the journey and the mistakes that they've made and the growth that they've had. We've enjoyed everything about Umbrella Academy seasons 1 through 3, and to be grateful to see this journey as a whole, it's such a beautiful thing in and of itself. The fact that us as the fans know that it happened, even though nobody else knows that it happened in the show itself. And yeah, man, I really don't know what else to say. I enjoyed the concept of the ending. I just didn't like the execution of it. Ben and Jennifer, I think I'm gonna have a rant video out on that soon enough, of how I feel about them. I don't feel like going over that again. They fumbled a lot. They failed to answer any questions. I might make a video on that, on how the Umbrella Academy failed to answer any questions and any theories that the fans had in the previous seasons, and how they never. So in season 3, Reginald Hargreaves, he was a robot. He Allison slashed his head open. He was a robot. And in season 2, he was revealed to be an alien, and none of that was ever brought up again. Like, the whole alien subplot, for ever since it was revealed in season 2, was never talked about, or never revealed, or we never got any deeper into that storyline whatsoever. And again, that's just another disappointment brought by our favorite author and favorite writer, being Steve Blackman, and any other author who made this fucking show. That's. I don't really have anything else to say. Overall, good show, of course, really good show. I've enjoyed my time. I've enjoyed the journey that the Umbrella Academy has had for the viewers, and I can see where Steve was trying to convey the quote unquote, like he said, subjective ending. I love the concept of it. I just don't like the execution of it, like I said, and it's a damn shame how authors fail to really live up to the expectations that they give us in the beginning seasons, where the ending is always the most disappointing thing of almost any show, and that's a damn shame. So I don't really have anything. I don't really know what to add. I feel like everyone else has already said what I would probably say. Yeah.